What happens when left moves right? The puzzle. When historians look back on Europe in the early 21st century, they will look first at the seemingly miraculous rise of the populist right. Over the past 2 decades, the number of right-wing parties in Europe almost doubled, while support for them more than tripled. Populist right parties gained enough votes to put their leaders into government positions in 11 European countries. Right-wing populism is particularly strong and pervasive in Eastern Europe. Populist right parties often outcompete mainstream parties there and have come to power in Hungary and Poland. Since 2000, when Eastern European populist parties took an average of 9.2% of the national vote, their vote share has tripled, reaching 31.6% in 2017. In some Eastern European countries, right-wing populism has become so pervasive that the main competitors to populist governments are themselves right-wing populists. For example, in Hungary, the populist right Jobbik Magyarországért Mozgalom Jobbik party grew to become the main challenger of the populist right Fidesz Magyar Polgári Szövetség Fidesz party. Right-wing populist leaders often embrace and promote xenophobic stances and socially conservative values, and when in power implement illiberal reforms, which undermine institutional checks and dismantle the key cornerstones of democracy. The implications of this phenomenon for the resilience of democracy in the region are therefore tremendous. What explains the dramatic rise of such parties? My book offers a new theory. The story of communist successor parties in post-communist Europe presents an interesting conundrum. Throughout the 1990s, many leftist parties in Central and Eastern Europe defied predictions that they would sink into oblivion after democratic transition by winning elections all over the region. One popular explanation of leftist parties' electoral success in the early 1990s focused on their ability to rebrand, embrace social democratic platforms, and actively promote accession to the European Union in their countries. But if this were the case, what explains their sudden change of fate a decade later, when the left's popularity plummeted all over the region, even though most of these parties had not changed their politics since the rebranding took place? Starting in the mid-2000s, left-wing parties began to suffer major electoral defeats in the very countries that had so enthusiastically supported them just a decade before. And there were no newly reconstituted left-wing parties to replace them. They simply disappeared. Meanwhile, right-wing populist parties gained traction, particularly with the working class, a traditional constituency of the left. Electoral politics in the region had flipped. What happened? And were these two political dynamics connected?